Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to the GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Cynthia, and I'm here with... Tell them who you are.
I feel like the longer I wait to say something, the more people are going to be like, who is she talking to?
I know, like I'm talking to myself. They're like,
No, I'm Keith. I'm here, and I am trying...
Co-host Keith?
Yeah, co-host Keith. I'm trying to be funny, but I don't know how well
I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, it's not working.
I don't think it's working.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't think the audience are digging it right now.
What? You don't even know. Hey, listen in the comments if you think my antics are hilarious, because they're hilarious.
And so, what did you do this weekend?
Oh my gosh, I just realized in our other podcast, I didn't ask you how your weekend was. You asked me, and I went on like a 5-minute diatribe about how my weekend was all right, and I did my Valentine's Day stuff like on Thursday and Saturday instead of on Friday, and then I didn't even ask you. You just started talking. It was so rude of me to not ask.
Oh my God.
Cynthia, how was your weekend?
It was great. I engaged in no new movies.
You got engaged?
I know, I engaged.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
No. Okay, honestly, I would actually be annoyed if my boyfriend proposed to me on Valentine's Day. Me personally, I think
why?
It's just it's cheesy. Like, I would need my own day. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be proposed on Valentine's Day. That's just me.
But then it's your Valentine's Day forever. Like, it's your day. Now you own Valentine's Day.
No, because everybody does. It's the same like if
I don't
my
know
birthday,
anybody who's gotten engaged on Valentine's Day.
I know so many people.
Okay.
It's the same if like my birthday were on Christmas. It's like, well, I don't feel special because everyone's getting gifts.
But I mean, like, don't you want other people to get gifts?
Yeah, but I'm just,
That's okay. I get it.
My birthday is like it's my holiday.
When is your birthday?
June 28th. Don't forget it.
Cancer gang. Absolutely forget
Cancer
it.
gang, I know. You're like, I will absolutely forget it.
Yeah, but, especially since you're a Cancer, like.
You know what?
And I don't just mean the constellation. Cancers are a Cancer.
Yes, that is true.
I'm kidding.
That is true.
That was a little mean. No, I mean, yeah.
I didn't watch any like new movies over the past week, but I'm more like into TV shows right now. So I'm watching.
Yeah, you said you're watching Narcos?
Narcos that just released, and then this novela that I'm like obsessed with, Ruby. I wish, honestly. I mean, I don't think it'd have the same effect if like you were to watch it with subtitles, because it's just like not the same. Like if you're reading it, I don't know. With novelas, it's a little different. But this novela I'm watching is like really, really good.
Is it different than like a telenovela? Like it's not
telenovela.
So it is a soap.
Yeah, it's a soap opera. But nowadays, like, they're making it a little different. Like, back then, novelas used to be like, they used to run for about like 4 months, like an entire season. And now, like, the network that these shows are on, they're making it more like short movies, which are kind of split. It's like short, like 2 months only. So the plot goes by really quick. Whereas like in the past when I grew up watching novelas in high school, it was like 4 months long. So it kind of like took a long time to like build up. Like someone always ends up pregnant. Someone always dies. Someone always cheats. Like something hella crazy happens.
Someone always says, ¿Por qué?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But this time they like the novelas now have matured a lot.
Oh,
like
okay.
their acting is way better. Even just like the scenes and the way like they shoot things are a lot better. Anyways.
I believe you.
But yeah, they're a lot better
cool
nowadays. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm disappointed because in the other podcast you said you did not watch Sonic the Hedgehog. And I was expecting you to watch. You've been raving about it. I
said I was going to. So if I'm being super honest, my girlfriend was supposed to go out of town on Saturday, and I was supposed to have like all day Sunday to myself, but she ended up having to cancel that trip. So she was around, so I hung out with her. So I wasn't able to do like half of the things I had planned on doing this week that were going to be like me time because she's been around. So it's like I want to hang out with her.
Right.
So
but you guys didn't want to go.
Girlfriend.
You didn't want to go to a Sonic the Hedgehog like Valentine's Day date?
Well, we were doing other things last week. I cooked her dinner on Thursday. She hung out with her grandparents on Friday, and then we went to brunch on Saturday, and she had plans on Saturday, and I had made plans as well, I believe. So it definitely was just from a lack of coordinating schedules, not necessarily a lack of desire.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, I feel it.
But it definitely...
I'm going to hold you to it because you need to report back.
I know. I really want to see it.
Right.
I'm excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologize to everyone in the audience who expected me to have seen Sonic the Hedgehog this week. And I especially apologize to my co-host Cynthia.
Right, because I'm like, you gotta. I was looking forward. I need to hear feedback from you.
I know. I'm just a crappy co-host, and I'm really sorry.
I forgive you this time.
I feel like you say that every week.
Well, for different things. For different things. For one, interrupting. Two, the awkward silence.
What?
Oh, there we go. It's back. I shouldn't even have mentioned it, right? I shouldn't have mentioned it.
Wait, does it actually bother you that I interrupt you?
No, it really doesn't.
Wait, are you sure?
I'm sure.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into what we're really here to talk about. So
music.
What?
No,
don't confuse them. Don't confuse them. We're here to share with you guys. So we chose the movie trailers or movies that we're most looking forward to for this year in 2020. And I will say this, my honest opinion, there weren't too many I was like absolutely crazy about.
Really?
There are also like a lot of movies. Like to be honest, I couldn't watch through I watched through so many trailers.
There's so many movies coming out.
There's a lot of
movies. It's crazy.
There's a lot of movies, but not all of them like really captivated my attention. That's what I was meaning to say. There's a lot of movies coming out, but not that many. I'm like, okay, I like Bad Boys. I was like, I'm going to see it opening day.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever see a movie on opening day again.
Well, I did
that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When I was like 19, I used to do that all the time.
I saw Bad Boys opening weekend. I didn't see opening day. I saw like the third day, which probably explains why the movie theater was absolutely packed.
Yeah.
But it also was like the worst theater I've ever been to. I already explained my frustration that they had the same line at the concession stand to buy food and your ticket, which I've never seen a theater do before. Anyway.
Let's just go on a diatribe about the terrible customer service we get at movie theaters.
Honestly, I could actually dedicate.
Delay, not talk about what we said we're going to talk about for the entire podcast, get to the final minute mark and be like, okay, guys, we're done.
Right. Like, these are the movies we're looking forward to.
And then just list them off real quick and not talk about them
They would get tired of that.
That'd be hilarious.
I would get tired of that. I don't like to complain too much. Let's get into my first pick. So, Tenet, which I'm actually really excited for this movie to come out. Mm-hmm. It's an action drama thriller film. It's expected to release.
It looks more like action and thriller than drama, but yeah.
I feel like they always say drama when there's like some type of romance, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it was pretty clear that there was romance in the trailer.
And Tenet is expected to release July 17th. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read you guys a synopsis, which goes, an action epic revolving around international espionage, time travel, and evolution. Possibly about a man trying to prevent World War III through time travel and rebirth. Which that already sounds interesting, the synopsis. And the director and writer of this film is Christopher Nolan, which he's notable for many other blockbuster films like Inception, Interstellar, The Dark Knight, and more. Which honestly, I'm actually really surprised when you, Keith, watched the trailer. You're like, this looks tight, because you weren't a fan of Inception, and this is from the same director and writer, Christopher Nolan.
Well, okay, so the beginning of the trailer is awesome, but as soon as they say we're trying to prevent World War III, I'm like, oh, I'm out. Like, it just seems like such a pithy thing. It's just, okay, it feels like they're using like specific terminology to increase the stakes of what it is that this person is fighting for. And then he's like, nuclear holocaust, right? And they're like, no, something worse. And then it's like time travel. Like, I don't know. To me, it just feels like another Christopher Nolan movie that's going to end up having tried way too hard to be something interesting when really it was just like, why didn't you just make a secret agent movie about him doing time travel? Why does he have to be preventing World War III? And like,
there's layers to this. I don't know. That's the whole point.
I don't want to judge a book by its cover and say that the movie trailer or that the movie's not going to be good, but like the fact that it's leaning on the idea that they're trying to prevent some worldwide conflict, like it just feels like they're artificially raising the stakes through the storytelling, which I am not a fan of. Like, you don't have to be saving the world, you know?
I don't mind if they save the world.
No. And like, I think that it could, like, I'm not saying that it's going to be bad. I'm just saying that, like, for me, when I hear them say, we're trying to prevent World War III, I think I'm trying to prevent myself from spending $10 to see this movie in theaters.
What? Whoa, we're totally different. We're on opposing sides. Because see, when I heard that line, I thought like the timing of the film is like perfect just because it relates to like some world issues that we could possibly be facing. And so I actually like took it like completely opposite from what you're saying. You're like, oh, because of them trying to save the world and using that line of World War III, you're like more hesitant to see the film. But I'm the opposite. I'm like more prone because I'm like, oh, like what is this about? Like it's kind of it's pretty relatable.
I think that the media has done a really good job of trying to like leverage people's fear into thinking that because of the current political climate that we're experiencing, we're constantly on the brink of some sort of worldwide conflict. But I don't think we'll ever have another world war. It just doesn't make economic or social sense. It's just not confiscatory for us to do so. The rest of the wars on this planet will probably be fought via proxies, much more similar to like Vietnam and Korea than the world wars of the past. It'll be like small battlefields where we're using some sort of like artificial perception of the native population. Cough, cough. Iraq war where there were weapons of mass destruction. Oh wait, there weren't actually weapons of mass destruction. Like it's all about economic gain and what is socially acceptable. And I just think that throwing around the term World War III implies that there is some possibility for worldwide conflict like that. I'm not saying that like humanity has evolved by any means, because we're still like a bunch of, in my opinion, we're still a bunch of like brutal, pretty generally awful as a group creatures. But like to say that World War III is going to happen is just a little sensational. So I feel like they're leveraging that perception in the general populace of being like, oh, we're on the brink of some sort of worldwide conflict. Let's release a movie about it. Like, that's kind of where I'm at on it.
It's kind of like when they released, what was that one? 2012?
Oh, yeah.
It's just like that.
It is just like that.
Right.
Yeah, the end of the world
End of the
movie.
world, right.
How astute of you. What a great observation.
Yeah, I was just there thinking, I'm like, wait, that's like totally true.
Yeah.
But they like play on people's fears.
Yeah, which is why I'm hesitant to think that the movie's going to be good, because it's like, well, if it's not good enough to stand on its own and you need to try to leverage this general perception in the populace that isn't even true, then like, how good can it possibly be? But the action scenes,
the action looks great.
So good.
Right.
Like flying up a wall.
And like the car flipping and then it like reversed. I don't know. Yeah. I like,
what happened here? And they're like, it hasn't happened yet. And then the guy like comes through the door backwards. Like it's
definitely like mind boggling. I definitely think the point of the film is to try to confuse the audience and like, you don't need to understand it. Like, it's just trying to like mess with our minds. And I think that's like,
and they even say that in the trailer.
Right.
Like, don't try to understand it. Just feel it.
Right.
Yeah. And like the, what is it? When a word is the same way forward and backwards.
I don't know.
I can't remember, but Tenet is that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm looking forward to this film in July.
I'll go see it for the cinematography. Inception had incredible cinematography. That was the highlight of the film, in my opinion. Like just the way that they were able to do things and like
the shots and everything.
Oh, it was amazing. So this looks similar to that. So I'm definitely interested. So yeah. But before we move on to, do you have anything else to say about this?
Oh, no.
Let me interrupt you.
You interrupted me. No, but go.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we're going to cut into a quick break.
Dang it. That was what I was going to say.
I know. I beat you to it. And when we come back, we're going to share more of our favorite movies.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the GSMC Movie Podcast. And I just made you listen to the whole song.
I'm like mad confused.
I started the recording at the end of the track of the song.
I know, that's how I was like, is there something wrong with our audio right now? Because usually when we come back from the break.
We start in the middle of the music. But whenever I do that, you always make us start during the music.
I know, because it's just a habit, and I like listening to the tunes.
Yeah, well, now they got to listen to the whole tune and then hear our voices. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what's your second pick for this week, Cynthia?
Yeah, so the second movie trailer that I'm looking forward to watching for this year, 2020, is A Quiet Place Part 2. And this is actually a sequel to the first one. So The Quiet Place, the first one, came out back in 2018, which I actually saw in theaters. And because my
Wait, wasn't it a straight to Netflix movie?
No. Oh. It was in theaters, yeah. I remember because my boyfriend dragged me because he was like, I want to see this movie.
Yeah.
He thought it was going to be more horror, but like it really wasn't. It's just more like suspense thriller.
Yeah.
So I'll read you guys first the synopsis of the first Quiet Place so you can better understand The Quiet Place Part 2. So this is going to be the synopsis for the first movie, which goes, in a post-apocalyptic world, a family is forced to live in silence while hiding from monsters with ultra-sensitive hearing. Mm-hmm. And that same kind of concept travels on to Part 2, in which everybody is silent, and if you make a noise, like this monster kind of comes and gets you. But it's kind of funny because just in the trailer alone for A Quiet Place Part 2, there was more dialogue in that trailer than in the first entire movie of A Quiet Place. Like literally the majority of the movie. Yes.
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty good, honestly. Yeah. And that's why I'm looking forward to Part 2 because I've seen the first one. I think if you're a viewer who's just looking at this, A Quiet Place Part 2 without seeing the prior one, you probably like wouldn't be as interested. But because I saw the first movie and I liked it, I am interested in seeing the second one and how it plays out, because the second one, just looking at the trailer, looks already so much better than the first movie.
Wait, better?
The trailer.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think part of the reason that the first one was so interesting was that it was basically like a silent movie,
right?
Which is why I'm super surprised that they're doing a Part 2.
Oh, I was too. I was super surprised.
Because it doesn't make, like, I don't know what happens in that movie. I would assume that at the end of it they die. That would make the most sense to me. Isn't it Sandra Bullock's in that one, right?
No.
Wait, which one?
It's the same
I'm thinking
cast.
of a different movie
so
that went straight to Netflix. Wasn't that one called Birdhouse or Bird?
Yeah, Birdhouse.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I am not thinking of A Quiet Place.
It's kind of similar.
One.
It's kind of similar. I know what you're saying though. But so I'll read you guys the cast members for A Quiet Place Part 2. They're pretty much the same people from the first one, which are John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Noah Jupe, Melissa Simmons, and others. They're like the main characters. And John Krasinski, you guys, he is the guy that plays
in that new Tom Clancy
Jim.
series on Amazon.
Huh?
He's mainly known for playing in the Tom Clancy series on Amazon, the Amazon Prime series.
Oh, I was gonna say he's more popular known for playing the character Jim in The Office.
No, definitely better known for his role.
Well,
in the Amazon Prime
he's writing and directing.
He did the first
A Quiet
one too,
Place
right?
Part 2. Yeah, he did both. Which I didn't catch that when I saw A Quiet Place. I don't remember if I saw him in that first film.
I don't think he's in it. I think he just wrote and directed it.
And produced it. But he's actually in this in the second one. He was in the trailer, actually.
Yeah, which basically I was like, "Where's Pam?" when I saw him in the
where's
trailer.
Pam? Right. But I'm really interested to see it again, just because I'm trying to compare how A Quiet Place Part 2 relates to, or I mean they're related, but I guess I'm just there to compare and see what they kind of do differently. How are they going to make it more interesting? Because the first one was pretty good, again, because it's like a silent movie. It's different, which I totally was not expecting when I went into the theater. And also because I saw it in a theater, it like gave me a very eerie vibe. It was super weird. So I definitely want to see A Quiet Place Part 2 in theater. They should have named this movie A Quieter Place.
Except for it's not quieter because there was more dialogue.
There was. And literally in the trailer alone, there was more dialogue than in the first entire movie.
It might be like that this film is supposed to provide some sort of like exposition as to how the monsters came to be
maybe
a problem or something like that.
Yeah, kind of backtracks a little bit.
Yeah, because the beginning of the trailer, definitely it looks like they're showing things like this is how the world started to end. And it's like, I think it's the main character of the movie who's like driving through this town and like running people over and like freaking out. I mean, obviously accordingly, because people are getting murdered in the streets by giant monsters that came from nowhere. So it's definitely interesting. If they give exposition as to how these things came to be and like how the world ended, and like what it looks like now, like I would be interested, I guess. But like, I don't know. I haven't seen the first one. I feel like it's kind of like a
it's on Netflix, I think.
Oh, okay.
They just put the first one on Netflix. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, to me, it just feels like, I don't know, it could have just been a one-off, and now they're releasing a sequel. It kind of feels money grabby. It looks interesting, and it could be interesting. I'm hesitant.
Okay.
But you've seen the first one, and you still seem excited. So I will cede to your experience because
you have to watch it with like the lights. Right. You have to watch it with like the lights turned off and like, yeah, that's it. Just in a dark room by yourself.
By myself?
No, it's honestly not scary. It's like a PG-13. So like,
is it? It's only PG-13.
I think the first one is PG-13
because people loved that movie.
Yeah,
people were all about it. That's surprising.
I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. I mean, there wasn't any like sex. There wasn't crude language. I mean, there was barely any dialogue. So
yeah, I guess it'd be pretty hard to get an R rating when you're barely talking.
Right.
Like you'd have to pay the people. That'd be so funny. John Krasinski is like calling the people who do the ratings like, please just make it rated R. Like I know that there's literally nothing in it except for jump scares. Just make it rated R for me, please.
Right. Just
to make it sell more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Honestly, like, and I don't know if you have the same experience, but when I see rated PG-13 in a movie, I'm like, oh, I guess I won't be seeing that.
I'm turned off. Yeah. I'm immediately, especially if it's like an action or, no, actually any film, like if it's like comedy, action, especially horror, I'm like, I'm not engaging in this content because how good could it really be?
Interesting.
Like I need crude language in there.
I wonder if kids feel the same way, because when I was a kid and I saw PG-13, my parents taught me that was like, oh, that's bad.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah. Same.
So I wonder if kids still have like a similar experience, or
probably
if, like,
not. And you know why? I think it's because it's just so accessible, internet. Right? The internet, like. We literally grew up in a time where we had to go to the theater to watch a movie. We didn't have Netflix. There wasn't Twitter where you could just scroll.
I'm sure they're so desensitized to like everything that would be in a PG-13 rated movie. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's terrifying. I may never have children. That's a joke.
That's a joke. Let's move on to your movie trailer pick.
Yeah, okay.
Yours
so I have 4, but we're only going to talk about 2 of them really briefly. We'll talk about the 2 primarily first. So what are you going to say about this?
No, French Dispatch. This is definitely not in my realm of movie picks.
Yeah.
And I want to know why it's yours.
Okay, so The French Dispatch is this year's Wes Anderson flick, and it is being described as a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in the French Dispatch magazine. This is Wes Anderson's first film for Disney in 16 years. I guess The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou was also a Wes Anderson, or was for a Disney film, or for Disney, the studios. And then the film includes 5 Oscar winners in its cast: Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, Benicio del Toro, Christoph Waltz, Adrian Brody, and lots of other Oscar nominees: Timothée Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, Bob Balaban. Wes Anderson never has a problem finding actors that have been nominated for Oscars. Actors love acting in his movies. It's pretty funny.
I didn't recognize any of the actors in that movie.
They're all like pretty famous. And okay, so Wes Anderson is a director for people who like the art of movies. I'm trying not to sound like I've got my, nose way up in the air here. But like, I think a good way to describe it would be Wes Anderson is a director for English majors. So if you went to college and you were an English major, Wes Anderson is like the perfect director for you. And if you went to college and you were a film major, then you probably love Wes Anderson too. Like his movies really focus on like setting the scene with cinematography and symmetry, and all of the way that he shoots all of his movies is just gorgeous. He writes most of them, and so the plot is ultimately really similar, and it almost is always male-centric, just because, write what you know, right? Like, I wouldn't try to write a book about a woman just because I haven't experienced life as a woman. So I'm not surprised that a lot of his films are kind of like more male-centric, which is probably partly why I really like him, because, again, what you're familiar with, you have a proclivity for. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I just really love Wes Anderson's movies. I think that his last film, Isle of Dogs, was amazing. I cry every time I watch it. It is just it's got that same kind of like classic 1950s Atticus from To Kill a Mockingbird type masculinity vibe to it. But it's as emotional as you can get within that realm. Wes Anderson has done a ton of really good movies. I honestly don't think I've seen a movie by him that I don't like. I really love Grand Budapest Hotel. I love Isle of Dogs. I love Darjeeling Limited. I think Darjeeling Unlimited is my favorite of his films that I've seen so far. But he's just got a pretty substantial catalog of really good films, and he focuses really heavily on like deep and meaningful content. And the acting is always powerful because people love acting in his films. And then again, the cinematography is just, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I
will say that I did like the cinematography throughout the trailer. But
you should watch one of his movies. Like, Grand Budapest Hotel is probably like the most accessible
I
of
think
his
I've
films,
heard of that one, yeah.
And you should check it out. I think you might like it more than you expect to.
Honestly, so when I was going through movie trailers to pick for today's episode, I came across this one. And literally like 20 seconds in, I exited out because I just I was not interested. Like I was watching.
The trailer makes no sense.
Right. Like I honestly just didn't understand what was going on. Like I was trying to follow and like it lost me. I was like, I just don't think, like immediately 20 seconds into the trailer, like I just don't think it's for me. I don't think I'm the right audience for it. But maybe for someone like you, how you said, if you're an English major or a filmmaker, like you probably are going to appreciate his art of filmmaking more than like me.
Yeah, well, Martin Scorsese loves Wes Anderson. He thinks he called Wes Anderson the next Martin Scorsese.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is pretty high praise.
That is.
Yeah. And like I said, the actors, they are quoted, a lot of actors have been quoted as saying that it's like the most fun they've ever had working on a movie, and they did as much improv as possible, but also had a well-written script to go off of. And like this is Wes Anderson's like, I don't know, 8th or 9th, I would say, movie, I think. So he's definitely very experienced at this point. I think that part of the reason that the trailer is so confusing is because I think the movie is like 4 different short stories that are kind of like put into one film to make a point about something would be my guess. So if they were to do a trailer on each short story, like it would basically just explain the entire short story. So they have to do like these tiny little snippets of like each story so that you aren't, as an audience member, they don't give the film away to you completely. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it like, yeah. I just don't think it's for me.
That's
for
okay.
me personally, yeah. But that's not to say that it's like going to be a bad movie.
I still think you should give it a chance. If it comes out on Netflix, you should check it out.
Oh yeah, if it's on Netflix, I don't think I'll pay money to go see this.
No,
in theaters.
no. I mean, like honestly, I would. I don't know what kind of movies your boyfriend is into, but I might pay for the two of you to go see it just because I think I think you guys would be surprised.
No, honestly,
I'll
tell you,
Wes Anderson really is.
Him and I have like the exact same movie taste. We're both very heavily in love with action movies.
Okay. I think you'd be surprised. I think you might find yourself liking it more than you
maybe.
Otherwise
I'm
would.
open to it. I'm not closing off. You know, I have an open mind. So I'm down. Just like how you've introduced to me a lot of like new music. I'm down for new movies as well.
Okay. Well, right before we go to our last commercial break, and then we're going to talk about my other picks. Interesting little tidbit about Wes Anderson. He's related to Edgar Rice Burroughs, which I just thought that was super cool because Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote Tarzan and John Carter, which is super awesome. So anyway, yeah, on that positive note, we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello and welcome back to the GSMC Movie Podcast. And Keith has more to share on his top movie picks.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah. And well, you got two, so I got two, and then I figured just in case I pick an extra one.
Well, you know what?
So if we have time, we'll talk about the extra one.
I think sometimes too, like I get overwhelmed when I see too many trailers. I don't know. It's the same thing with like music. Like I kind of need to like go take it easy because when I'm trying to like see a whole bunch of trailers all at once, I almost just like don't want to watch any.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I
fair.
need to like just choose a couple and stick with it. And like, I mean, the first two that I chose, I'm really interested in. The Green Knight. So that's your second pick here.
The Green Knight. Yes.
The Green Knight.
It's A24 Studios. They do a lot of really cool stuff.
They did Uncut Gems.
They did, which I didn't get to see. I wanted to see.
I know. Remember we were talking so much smack about that movie, like
yeah.
and like everybody loves it.
I can't. Yeah, yeah.
We have to
I
see it now
because
maybe they like we have to
maybe
watch it.
We missed something,
but we must have because you and I were like not a fan of the trailer.
No, it looked like it was going to be a garbage, like a trash film,
and it wasn't.
Apparently, I don't know. It still could be. I haven't seen it.
Or maybe we don't know.
So Green Knight is an epic fantasy adventure based on the timeless Arthurian legend about the Green Knight. It tells the story of Sir Gawain, played by Dev Patel, King Arthur's reckless and headstrong nephew, who embarks on a daring quest to confront the eponymous Green Knight, who is a gigantic emerald-skinned stranger and tester of men. Gawain contends with ghosts, giants, thieves, and schemes. I wonder if they rhymed intentionally. In what becomes a deeper journey to define his character and prove his worth in the eyes of his family and kingdom by facing the ultimate challenger. Apparently, they wanted to list From visionary filmmaker David Lowery comes a fresh and bold spin on a classic tale from the Knights of the Round Table. Anyway, it's a story about Gawain. If you're familiar with Arthurian legend, you'll be familiar with the Green Knight, which is part of the reason why I picked it, because I think Arthurian legend is super cool.
So, my thoughts on the trailer. I liked what would you call that? It's not cinematography, but like just, I don't know the word. Like the vibe. Not the vibe, but like the creatures. Like how they look. Yeah. Is what do you call it? Like the animation? It's not really animation.
I don't know, special effects. Makeup
so
work, I guess.
I think that's on point. Whoever did their makeup and everything, I really liked it. But again, I don't know if it's like I'm slow. I don't have enough coffee today. I didn't understand the plot at all.
No, the only reason I know the plot and I knew what the movie was about is because I'm familiar with the Arthurian legend of the Green Knight and specifically of Gawain. And the Green Knight. That's the only reason I knew what it was about. If you don't know what that is, like look up some stuff on the mythology of the Green Knight and Gawain before you watch the trailer so that it makes sense. But if you've never heard of that stuff, the trailer will make absolutely no sense to you.
I mean, I like that it's like a genre I don't typically like watch. It's a like medieval fantasy I kind of got. Mm-hmm. Looks like a psychological thriller.
Maybe in a way, yeah.
But it's like nothing is clear, but it's still interesting. Like I'm still very interested. Yeah. But I just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah. Well, the director David Lowery did a movie a couple years ago called Ghost Story, and like on IMDb it's not listed as the film that people most know him for, which is a surprise to me because Ghost Story, like when it came out, I think it was in 2016, everybody I knew was talking about it. Have you seen it? It's really good. And like all my friends who are super into like interesting cinema, they were all like, "Oh, it's such an amazing film." And like the premise is like kind of like sadly hilarious. It's like the ghost of a guy possesses a sheet and then like wanders around his suburban house to try and figure out what's going on with his wife. Mm-hmm. Like it's just interesting. So I'm not surprised that the trailer seems like confusing or that like the whole thing is kind of like, I don't know. It's like it's being kind of like advertised as like an action psychological thriller like you mentioned, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has like a lot more emotional and like personal themes running throughout it. I would guess that there's going to be a lot of like personal crises that happen in the film just based off of like what he's done in the past.
Right.
And like what's kind of interesting about this and part of the reason why I thought it was why it was cool is that in Arthurian legend, the Green Knight is like a judge and a tester of knights. And so some people consider him as being friendly and others consider him as being terrifying. As far as like people who are scholars in the realm of Arthurian legend, J.R.R. Tolkien, the guy who wrote Lord of the Rings, he was a huge fan of Arthurian legend. That's like a major influencer on all of his work. He said that the Green Knight is one of the hardest characters to do any kind of like analysis or come to a conclusion on, just because it's just difficult to find where his place is because he's not considered evil or good, or he doesn't have a ton of symbolic representation or metaphoric representation that has anything to do with his color. So it's just interesting. So I think that this director who's kind of famous for doing kind of alternative takes on things that we're familiar with in kind of like a tongue-in-cheek way, the fact that he's doing a movie based on this portion of Arthurian legend just seemed really, really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So
there you go. The Green Knight. Yeah, I think, again, this is a movie I probably wouldn't pay $15 to see in the theater, but I think if it comes out on Netflix, I would be down to watch it because it does look interesting. I just don't get it. So I think I need to just do more research and like, or behind, like the
it's
background.
Kind of like that one movie we talked about a couple weeks ago, where the guy's girlfriend left him after 10 years. I can't remember what it was called.
Me neither.
We talked about the trailer. Does it sound familiar? Mm-mm. The guy's girlfriend leaves him after 10 years and then a monster attacks his house. And
right.
I can't remember what that...
Yeah, I remember...
It feels similar to that movie. Just kind of like weirdly quirky and also horrifying. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
I don't know what the name of that movie is. I can't think right now.
I'm sure that if I were to go through the show notes, I could find
it would be there, yeah.
Yeah, so... check out the show notes, guys. I'm sure you'll be able to find that movie. And then my last pick for today is a new addition to the Marvel universe, which normally I am definitely not a comic book movie guy. I think that they are way overdone. Disney has just like beat the crap out of this dead horse, and they're still somehow getting money out of it. But I'm a fanboy of comic books, so I have a hard time not being excited when they take a more tertiary character and give him his own film, or her own film. So there's another film coming out called Morbius, which is the basic plot is a scientist suffering from a rare blood disease who attempts to cure himself, instead becomes afflicted with a form of vampirism, which gives him superhuman abilities, but none of the superstitious weaknesses usually associated with vampires. So the main guy is the main character is played by Jared Leto, which is yet another reason to be excited about this. And it kind of is like an anti-hero movie. It's kind of like if you read comic books, Venom is a hero in his own comic book series. He's not a villain like he is originally in the Spider-Man series. I believe that Morbius is in kind of a similar gray area. Morbius is consistently in every Spider-Man like universe that I've read. Morbius has been one of my favorite characters. In the animated show from the 90s, the Morbius arc was one of my favorite arcs from Spider-Man. Every time he came into the show, I was super excited.
I didn't even know Morbius was like a character.
Yeah, he's a character from Spider-Man. I think he originally appeared in Spider-Man as a villain.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's funny because before in the trailer, before they even the credits said from the producers of Spider-Man, there was this one scene in the trailer when he has or he's in the cave and he has his hand out, and like all these bats come and like there's like doing something to his hand that immediately took me to Spider-Man. And then right after I like thought that, it said in the credits like from the producers of Spider-Man. So I definitely see some like similarities.
Yeah.
With the stories, and he literally turns into Batman. Like I'm like, he's a Batman. Like that's like what I thought.
Yeah. Well, in the movie, it looks like, and in the comic book series, one of the things that Morbius runs into is that the cure for his disease ultimately turns him more and more into a bat. And like the funny thing is, so like Spider-Man, 90% of the villains in Spider-Man became villains the same way that Spider-Man did. I got bit by a radioactive this. I got exposed to this thing at the same time that I was being exposed to radioactivity. Right. I got, like, it's just funny. Almost all of the villains from Spider-Man are villains for the same reasons that Spider-Man is a hero, which I think is pretty funny.
Out of all the movies you suggested, Morbius is my favorite. Like Morbius, I probably would go to the theaters and pay $15 to go see this film. The acting looks superb. And again, how you said, Jared Leto was starring in it. So that's just like another reason why everyone should go watch it.
Jared Leto he's a great actor.
No, but I like it. I like the trailer and it looks exciting and it's a character I'm not familiar with. So I'm even more intrigued. What, out of all the trailers you've suggested, which one are you like the most excited to see? They're all kind of different. They're all very different.
I would say I'm most excited to see the new Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
But kind of. I really am pumped for the Green Knight film as well. I kind of feel equally about them. I am a Wes Anderson fanboy, so I have a really hard time not being most excited about his movie, unfortunately. But the other ones that I picked definitely look good. I probably won't see Morbius in the theaters, honestly. It just looks really exciting, and I'm glad that they're getting, like, Disney has beat the crap out of Marvel so much that they're going to tertiary characters and giving them their own movies. Like, okay, cool, I'm down. It's funny to me, but yeah, regardless, I'm just kind of excited. So, and I definitely, Tenet, I'll probably see in theaters.
Tenet, yeah.
It looks like a see in theaters type movie.
Absolutely.
And maybe A Quiet Place I might wait for on Netflix. But yeah. What about you?
I
know you're not seeing any of my picks in theaters. You already said that.
No, Morbius. I said Morbius. Morbius would probably be the only one.
That's okay.
Tenet for sure would be another one I'd see. Tenet and A Quiet Place. I mean, that's the reason why I put them in the show notes. But from your picks, I would say Morbius, probably. Maybe because it's more action type. And again, that is like my favorite genre. So that's what I'm more prone to watching. But again, this is all just my opinion at the end of the day. And I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode here at GSMC Movie Podcast. If you guys liked what me and Keith and I suggested, then don't forget to like
and subscribe,
share, subscribe, leave us a comment, a rating, all of that good stuff. And as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another week of our episode. And we wish you all to have an amazing week.
Yeah. And let us know in the comments what you think of all the trailers. Yeah. Have a good week, guys.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.